what we just talked about, this idea of what I talk about in my book, Trendy Narcissism. Realize that you are not enough to fulfill you. Every Instagram influencer and their mom is telling you that you're enough, that you're perfect the way that you are, that you don't have any flaws, you don't have any failures, that you embrace all of the mistakes that you've ever made as just funny quirks that you don't need to feel bad about. Why don't you message those influencers and tell them that you voted for Donald Trump and see if they have the same message for you? Probably not.
Got a lot of thanks to give out here. First and foremost to my perfect wife.
That's right, everybody. Don't tell me what Can I just alone? Very good. We met before. It's hard to forget those eyes.
American citizens should never be forced to take medicine they don't want, period. Government should never require people to submit to any medical procedure, whether that procedure is sterilization or frontal lobotomies or COVID vaccinations. Most Americans still believe that. That is a foundational belief in this country. Every poll shows it. The majority in both parties believe that. So who is defending the people who believe that? No one on Capitol Hill is defending them. No one in the think tanks in Washington is defending them, even the supposedly libertarian think tanks that believe in freedom. Instead, professional Republicans have decided to ignore this topic entirely. As usual, they have utterly internalized the slurs of their enemies.
Supervisors, thank you for being here, listening to us. Before I go further, though, I'd like to address Ms. Wilma Wooten and that propaganda that you were sharing. This is not factual. We've actually, being that we are not Cuba yet or North Korea, we still have access to the internet. And it's beautiful because your department has done a fantastic job of documenting the deaths in this county. So what I've done is taken that information which you provided to ensure that I'm an informed citizen and I know when you're lying. So here we go. April 2021, there were 147 people who died in this county. Whatever the positive tests say with this PCR test, which we know to be unscientific and be used at 45 thresholds, which makes these positive tests false positives. We know this, and we also know that 147 people died in this county in the month of May. Or, forgive me, April. So let's go to May. How many people died in May? Ms. Wilma Wooten was talking about how all these people are dying. 54. We had 54 deaths in the county of San Diego. I don't care about the positives because obviously the PCR test is bunk and we know that. So let's go back to the deaths because that's hard evidence that we can use. In the month of June, how many deaths did we have, Nathan Fletcher? 80. How many residents are in this county? 3 million? 3.3 million residents in this county, and we're using propaganda that Wilma Wooten is using from the PCR test that we know that has been tested to be bunk because we've had 80 people die in this county. How many rights are we going to take away before we look at the facts? We know what you're trying to do. There are good supervisors up here that are trying to fight for freedom like the Constitution, but where are the rest of you? Why are you silencing people and using this jargon to scare us into submission? When are you going to speak the truth, Wilma? We're calling you out because we, the citizens of America, are tired of these lies.
telling you on Instagram they don't know you, they don't care about you. These pithy messages that are targeted to women to sell more workout programs don't mean anything. We're not perfect. We mess up all the time. And instead of wasting more time focusing on ourselves, which I promise that we do not have an epidemic of selflessness in this country. We don't need to waste more time just focusing on ourselves. We can spend more time focusing on finding joy and fulfillment from the only two things ultimately that are really going to satisfy us, and that is loving the Lord our God with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and loving our neighbor as ourselves. That's it. That's it. And that doesn't mean that you hate yourself. That doesn't mean that I'm saying embrace self-loathing or self-deprecation, but I am saying, and that taking our eyes off of ourselves so constantly is actually going to give us so much of the joy and the fulfillment that we're trying and failing to find inside of ourselves.
Oh, wait, no, come on.
Okay.
Come on,
I still hold
right
five?
over here. There we go. You can put it away. Is that what you said to my mom? It was wonderful. My mom loved it.
1 minute, Angel. Do you want to hold it? Here, lollipop. It's going to clean
got
up.
us all?
Just look at the camera, and you're going to have lollipop. It's going to go in your mouth right after, like right after.
Keep going. You understand it? Right next to me. And then we're going to have...
There you go.
Got it? Okay.
And the people in the back, if you just spread out a little bit.
You remember what I told you? No, not smile. No date till you're 30. Hey, Angel, how old are you? You're 12. What's your name? How are you? The problem is, you know, you guys, you got a hard time. All right, sister. I like kids better than people.
Yeah.
Grandpa's one of those guys.
That's nice of you to say.
No, I'm not saying. He knows. Do you know what my dad used to say? His granddaughter said one important.
And so they seem anxious to prove that they're not Neanderthals or not anything like those morons in rural America who vote for them and send them contributions, make their jobs possible. No, we're totally different. We're enlightened. We believe in science. You see them saying that all over television, reading Pfizer talking points and telling us how great the vaccines are. And that's fine. If you want the vaccine, go ahead and take it. It's entirely up to you. We support that. Most do. But what about the Americans who don't want to take the vaccine? Who is standing up for them? If Republicans can't even do that, if they can't even defend science and fight mandatory injections, then why bother to have a Republican Party? Why not spare the rest of us the indignity, sign off your Twitter account for good, and take a job at Quiznos? America would be much improved if you did that. Sandwich shops could certainly use the help right now.
Enjoy being a prison island? Do you want to be stuck in Australia forever?
Well, my ancestors started here prisoners, and I guess I am now one.
And you're happy with that?
Well, it's in the interest of public health and safety, and the global health and safety of the world.
Avec une pièce d'identité, s'il vous plaît.
I was only 3.5 when my family and I were evicted from our home and deported to a concentration camp. Fear of infectious epidemics was exactly what the Nazis used to demonize Jews as spreaders of disease. Today, the unvaccinated are being accused of being spreaders of disease.
They're issuing health passes there, right, where, you can go to a disco, or a discotheque, as they like to call it there, if you have a health pass. Is that something that the CDC would ever lean into or perhaps advise here?
I think some communities are doing that, and that may very well be a path forward.